Okay, property buyers, property owners, real estate investors, we need to talk. Okay, so I'm getting questions about property equity value and reinvesting and the various implications to utilizing property equity to reinvest into more real estate, for example. And I think part of the problem is that we need to understand is that the property value itself, when a loan is taken, what you do with that money will dictate your profits and what you can anticipate making from that investment. Because when we don't understand arbitrage, oh my goodness gracious, when we do not understand arbitrage, and from the perspective that I am teaching from, is when the money can solve multiple problems at the same time or create multiple investments at the same time while creating interest, cash reserves, cash flow, profit, and velocity of money, and increase in equity value in addition to the investment that you are putting that money into. When we don't understand arbitrage, it is very, very expensive because that means that we are forfeiting thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars when we are not utilizing those other benefits or advantages of the use of arbitrage. What arbitrage does, it allows us to create multiple streams of investment while still investing the money. It is a multiple fold benefit that is lost when we do not use arbitrage as the tool for reinvestment. So the money should go through an arbitrage first, then be invested. So let's go through this because this is very, very important, especially when we're talking about the fact that we're trying to build wealth. So the system that I teach, we want to focus on three fundamentals. Number one, we want to double the property equity value regardless of market conditions. This is so important because there is a difference between resale value and property equity value, especially when we're talking about utilizing an arbitrage to create interest. When we utilize the power of arbitrage, what we are doing is creating literally multiple tentacles, if you will, or multiple baskets, if you will, of money that's going to be growing despite the fact that you are reinvesting those dollars. Without the arbitrage, you are literally forfeiting multiple tiers of cash accumulation when we do not have arbitrage as a first filter. Oh my goodness gracious. So when we understand property value, remember, we've got two fundamental things happening. Number one, we've got the resale value of the property. Now, the resale value of the property can be a separate issue or separate opportunity than the actual property equity value. Those are two instruments and they should be treated differently. Property equity value is going to be in part determined by the type of property it is, how many other properties like it have been sold, and the other parameters that impact the resale value of a property. Then we have the economic value of the equity, which is the difference between the liens and loans that are on that property and the resale value of the property itself. Now, we know that there is a common trend to take equity out of a property and then use it to buy more property. When we go that route, keep in mind, we are forfeiting tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, and millions of dollars when we do not filter that through arbitrage. This is the part that we're missing. See, this is the reason why the banker's mindset is different than the investor's mindset. The banker's mindset is only concerned about how they're going to double their money. And they don't care about tenants. They don't care about property management. The only thing they're concerned about is how do they continue to double their money over and over and over again. The real estate investor thinks more like the borrower because they are, number one, making themselves dependent upon the bank to create investment. And then the second part of that, they are dependent upon market conditions, hoping in a flip situation, they can rebuild a property or rehab a property to try to create value and then use that difference to make profit. Again, that's a lot of labor. The bank is not interested in working hard. And then we have the whole issue here of relying upon the tenant. Well, okay, so one of the traditional ideas is the more doors you have or the more tenants you have, the more risk you reduce your cash flow risk. Okay, I'm not here to get into that argument of whether or not if that's true. But the point being made is that the bank doesn't care about how many doors or how many tenants. The bank's only objective, ladies and gentlemen, is to double its money repeatedly without working hard, without worrying about market values, and without worrying about tenants. And that's the banker's mindset. And that's what I teach because your real estate success should not be based upon whether or not a property can be resold. It should not be based on that. If it does, it should be at the bottom of the list in terms of parameters that you're using to build your wealth. Your wealth, ladies and gentlemen, should be based upon the single mindset of doubling property equity value regardless of market conditions. Market conditions are irrelevant in the banker's mindset. Secondly, we've got to learn how to double our cash reserves without market losses and without taxes. Then thirdly, for primary or homeowners, they must include the ideology of how do you create cash flow from a property that you live in without the need of a tenant. And then thirdly, those investors who are reliant upon tenants, how do you double that cash flow without the need of the tenant, without having to pressure the tenant to increase rents or have substandard housing to keep your expenses down? I want you to get completely away from that mindset and to learn the process, the art and science of doubling cash flow without the need of the tenant. These three fundamentals, ladies and gentlemen, is how the bank thinks. And as the banker's mindset, if you adopt these practices and put into place the things that are needed to do that, ladies and gentlemen, you will reduce your risk, you will build your wealth faster, you will build liquidity, you will build cash reserves, and you will have more opportunities for reinvestment because you are utilizing recycling and the recapturing of your money. Okay, so let me give an example that I know you're familiar with to make this thing real clear. Do you have a credit card or how have you ever used a credit card? Okay, so let's just say that you have a credit card and we know that credit cards have very high interest rates. I've had a conversation with someone fairly recently, and their interest rate was 29.9% on their credit card. Well, who gets paid that 29%? The bank. Oh my God. So I asked them, are you also making 29% or are you just paying out 29%? Well, they said, well, I'm just paying out 29%. And I asked a simple question, why? Why are you paying out 29% and you're not paying that to yourself? Why don't you reverse engineer that process and learn the art and science of paying that interest to yourself? And they said, well, I don't know how. So well, that's why you're talking with me. So we want to take the same schematic, if you will, or the same blueprint of how a credit card works, and then to create arbitrage through cash value life insurance to literally use a policy just like you would use a credit card, but you're not going in and out of it with the same frequency. So let's walk through this. We know that at a particular rate of interest, if you have a credit card that's, let's just say, let's use an easy number of $25,000. Okay. We know that at a certain interest rate, that money is going to double on behalf and benefit to the bank, right? Because the interest is creating that profit for the bank. And then when payments are made, the bank takes those payments and then they buy or loan out more money, creating more rate of return. Again, their whole energy and philosophy about focusing on doubling the money. We want to do the exact same thing. And this is the reason why recycling and recapturing, because that's really what a credit card does. It recycles and it recaptures, but you are the payer. So how can you create a cash value life insurance policy, structure it so that I can use it to over time replace my credit card and begin the process of recycling those dollars back to myself? So we ran some numbers on another example where it was a 5-year period. The credit card a balance was 25,000, and over a 5-year period of making payments, the bank made from the credit card itself $15,000. So it got its $25,000 back, plus it made $15,000 in profit. So that was a total value of $40,000. So the question is, how do we take that same principle and utilize the power of arbitrage and create within a life insurance policy the same exact result? It can be done. This is the reason why understanding how life insurance works is so important, because we're not talking about life insurance in the traditional sense of life insurance, but what we're really talking about is flow of cash and creating interest with an arbitrage. Because cash value life insurance is one of the fewer places where you can literally take a policy loan. The loan actually can create rate of return to you at the same time. So when you do this and you have interest that's being created on the borrowed money, yes, you also have interest that you're paying, but you also have the interest when you're making that payment back to yourself. That payment, ladies and gentlemen, goes into your cash reserves of your policy. So even though you're paying interest to the insurance company, that payment is still going back to you. This, again, is one of the miracles and one of the financial superpowers of utilizing arbitrage and understanding the process of recycling money. So when we take the picture of a credit card, we re-engineer it, knowing that when we make payments back to ourselves, despite the fact that interest is being charged, that money is available for use all over again. Ladies and gentlemen, if we would just learn to think like the bank, we can revolutionize the way that our finances are structured. We can get out of debt faster. We can get out of debt safer. We can get out of debt but while building what? Let's go through it again. Matter of fact, we'll close on this. We want to create interest, cash reserves, cash flow, profit, velocity of money, and in terms of property equity, we want to increase property equity value. The synergy of utilizing all of those components together, ladies and gentlemen, can revolutionize your finances and reposition yourself to think like the bank. Listen, if you'd like to have the free report associated with this video, just go to the link and you can download that. You can also register for my next seminar where we're talking about these types of having these types of conversations and going through different case studies showing you how this works and how it can be applied. Listen, if you have a group that you like to have a free presentation, I would love to have that conversation with you and to share the power of creating arbitrage to solve our financial problems. Listen, you got a question about this, just put it in the chat. I'd love to help you. And I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Take care.